How's everyone doing? This is so exciting. I'm so glad that everyone is here. I know it's the end of the day for a lot of you, maybe the beginning of the day for some of you, or in between. So thank you so much for being here. I think this is a very, very, very important topic. And the fact that you're here means that you are putting the time forward for yourself to make the change that you need to make to get out of burnout. And this topic is very important to me personally because it affected me for too many years of my life, and too much of my career was spent in burnout. And I learned some tools to get out of it. And so I'm really passionate about being able to share it with you. Will you do me a favor? Because I can't see your faces, your beautiful faces. Will someone just do a hand raise if you can hear me and everything is good with the tech? Yay! Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so my plan for this call is that I would really like it to be interactive. So you already started, you put your hands up, so that's good. You know how that part works. There's also a Q&A box at the bottom. And so I want this to be interactive. I know it's a webinar format, but I think it would be great if we can be sharing information back and forth through the Q&A, mainly because this particular topic, this particular thing that we all deal with is very isolating. And so the fact that we're all here together in this space, I just want to be able to share some stories, share information, learn from one another. So we're going to do a lot of Q&A, and then I also want to do some live coaching. So I want to bring some of you on and do some coaching through the burnout. And if you don't get a chance to get coached today, just know that you're going to learn a lot from watching other people get coached. And then you also have the option afterwards. I'm going to send you notes, so you don't have to take meticulous notes. I'm going to send you notes. I'm going to send you the recording because I'm recording. And I'm also going to send you a link to set up a coaching call with me. So if you didn't get coached today, you can get coached one-on-one. We can do a free 30-minute session. So those are all the options for you. So let me just introduce myself really quick before we dive in. So I'm Jamie Gennaro. I am a business coach. I've been working with startups and small businesses for most of my career, and that spans about 20 years. And I'm also a certified life coach. So I feel very, very impassioned about the fact that, especially now, we can't compartmentalize our personal life and our work life. It's just impossible at this moment. And I never really felt like it was possible, but especially now. And so I went and got certified last year as a life coach so that I could kind of blend my tools of entrepreneurship and startup land and helping businesses grow as a consultant. I wanted to mix that in with some life coaching elements and get some new tools. So that's what I do. That's who I am. And I also have a little bit of pixie dust that I like to sprinkle on things. So I do add a little bit of like woo-woo spiritual feminine energy to everything I do, just to make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more fun. So just like a little sparkle. So that's in there. I'm also going to be looking down sometimes at my notes because this is just, there's so much important stuff to cover that I want to make sure I cover it all. And so you might see me look down every once in a while. So here's the plan for today. We're going to talk about where you're at with your burnout, where you are in this exact moment, what's happening for you. We're going to investigate why it's there and what lessons we can learn from it. So of course, our first instinct is, let's just push it away. Let's just have happy thoughts. Let's just make ourselves happier. Let's get out of it. Let's do all the things we need to change it. But it's not going to stick unless you learn from it and sit with it and understand why it's there. So we're going to do a little bit of that today. And then we're going to go through all the tools and the tips that I used to get out of burnout. So that's the plan. And then throughout, we're going to do some live coaching and the Q&A. So if you're interested in live coaching, maybe you're like, I don't know if I'm ready, but feel free to put your hand up at any point. You could do it now if you're like, oh yeah, I'm willing. I'm a willing volunteer. You can put your hand up and then I will just call on you when it's time for that. But I'll also remind you later. But sometimes it's nice to just have that first person who's like, I'm cool. I'm willing. Then I know that at least I have someone who would be a willing volunteer. So you can do that at any point. Put your hand up. Okay. I'm going to start with my story. So my story of burnout, I don't want to start from the beginning because there was so much burnout in my life. I couldn't possibly go through it all. But I want to talk about February of 2020. Okay, it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like eons ago, right? I mean, for most of us, it probably feels like a long time ago. But in February of 2020, this is what my day looked like. I woke up at 6, frantic. Immediately when I woke up, I was already nervous and stressed. I would do a quick workout. So when I say a quick workout, I just want to tell you, it wasn't a workout that actually did anything for me, because if I compare myself now to how I was then, like it wasn't actually doing much for me, but it just put me in the mindset of like, I'm doing a workout. But it was pretty much useless. So it was just another thing to tack on to make me feel pressure. So did this quick workout, took a shower, made lunches for the kids, got on my bike, rushed to the train station in the rain and wind, uphill both ways. Okay, that's an exaggeration because there are no hills, but every day there was rain. I live in the Netherlands, and got to the train station, waited for the train, rode the train for 40 minutes, got on a tram. If anyone has seen my life, like, you know, this is not an exaggeration. Got on the tram for 20 minutes, walk for 10 minutes, got to work an hour and a half later. So I usually got to work around 9. And if I had a meeting at 9, and the train was late or the tram was late, I was completely screwed. So I had to leave at 7 to make a meeting at 9. Okay, so that's just the commute. So that was to and from work. Okay. And then once I got to work, it was interesting and exciting and challenging. I liked my job, but it was high pressure. And the industry I was in just also sort of brought in people who were not quite aligned with my values. And there was a lot of ego. It was toxic. I mean, that's the best way I can say it. And in general, over the 10 years where I feel like I was in and out of burnout, there was all this other stuff lumped onto that. So there was sexual harassment, definitely experienced that more than once. And there were power dynamics of people who wanted power and then wanted to push everyone away. Okay, long story short, you can see how these would all be ingredients for burnout. So the way it showed up for me physically and emotionally is that I didn't sleep well. I was super irritable and moody and just always grumpy. Maybe these things sound familiar. I was stressed about all the things I had to do at work and then all of the interpersonal things that were going on in my life. I was eating really bad. So I wasn't eating breakfast. I didn't have time. So I was eating at the kiosks at the train station. So I was eating crap food, lots of sugar, tons of caffeine. And so by the time I got home from work, which it took me an hour and a half to get home. So if I left at 6, sometimes I would make it home for dinner and sometimes I wouldn't. And I was just run down. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. But I was just completely exhausted. So I didn't have time for my family. I didn't have time for my husband. I didn't have time for myself, no hobbies. All I wanted to do was just watch TV and crawl up in bed and not talk to anyone. So besides that, my husband was doing everything. I've got a lot of a lot of allergy stuff happening. So So he was doing doctor's appointments, laundry, shopping, play dates, sports, all of that. So he's exhausted too. I'm exhausted. We're both resentful and frustrated. Okay, this is why we're here, right? This is what burnout looks like. So these might be everything that you were, all things that you're feeling too. So exhaustion, isolation, I felt lost. I just had no idea how to get out of it. I didn't know what was next. So here's where you come in. Okay, here's where I want you to start sharing. So really feel so sorry about my throat. Man, it's like worst timing. Really get grounded and feel where burnout shows up for you. So when it's at its worst, what does your body feel like? Is there a tightness in your chest? Maybe your shoulders are like this. Maybe your whole body is tense. Maybe your back hurts. Like, just sit with it for a minute. And I'm going to clear my throat while you do that. Really clear it. And I didn't mute, I turned the recording off. Okay. So sit with that feeling. Now think about the emotion that comes up for you. Oh my God, so sorry. Okay, so when I feel burnout in my body and I feel tightness in my chest, I feel what? What comes up for you? Is it pain, sad? Put it in the Q&A box. I want to see what some of these emotions are for you. So guilt, good one. Overwhelm. What else? What comes up for you? Tired. Yeah. Too tired to engage with your family. Yeah. Laura, definitely understand that. Irritability. Yep. I used to get just, really frustrated, sad and lonely. Useless. Oh, Heidi. Yeah. Mentally exhausted. Can't even talk to people. I totally relate with that one. Because I'm actually, even though I'm here, I'm kind of an introvert. So when I expend a lot of energy and do a lot of talking at work, I just need to kind of go into my cocoon. So mental exhaustion, yes, good. Stomach cramps, overwhelmed, out of control. Thank you for sharing this. This is why I'm here. Can we let's end all of this, right? Let's just get rid of it all. It's so painful. Burnout is so painful. So now let's take it a step further. When you feel this feeling, when you have those stomach cramps, Fiona, when you feel mentally exhausted, what thought is propelling that feeling? So emotions are always tied to a thought. We think they're tied to the situation. We think it's tied to the commute, the boss, the work, the overwork, but it's really, there's a thought in between those two things that's driving the emotion. So for me, when I was feeling a lot of guilt about taking time to myself. So if I came home and I needed some time because I was mentally exhausted and I needed to go into my room and I wasn't going to talk to anyone, I felt guilty. And the thought was, no one will let me take time for myself. I just really believed that. So what is the thought? Do you have a thought that you could share in the Q&A? What's the thought that propels useless? What is that thought? Why do you feel useless? Why, Laura, do you feel sad? I don't mean to make that face, but I really I feel your pain. I feel your pain. And what's the overwhelm? Where is the overwhelm coming from? What's that thought? So I can't do this. I'm not enough. That's a big one. Everyone expects me to be doing more than I am or can. Yes. Good. So that thought is a key. We're going to talk about it later when we talk about the tips and the ways to really tactically get out of this, but that thought is a key because that thought is not true. It's so hard to say that and it's hard to hear it. 99% of the time, that's not true. So if you say I'm not enough, okay, I think we all collectively and anyone in your life would tell you that's not true. But you have to believe it, right? You can't just decide, well, okay, I'll change that thought and then everything will be fine. But you really have to look at that thought. You believe it really firmly. So for me, when that thought would come up that no one will let me take time for myself, I couldn't prove it wrong unless I actually asked for that time, right? So by just believing that no one will let me take time for myself, believing they would say no if I asked, kept me from asking. I just wouldn't ask because I was so firmly set in the belief that it's true, no one's going to let me do this, that I wouldn't even ask. So I want you to think about that. So, oh, I'm not enough is coming up a lot. Am I good enough if I don't get everything done? Yes. Okay, so that's not true, right? I think when your logical brain looks at that thought, your logical brain says, I have no choice. I will be punished. Okay, your logical brain knows that you're not going to be punished. But what's happening right now is that you're punishing yourself, right? So this thought, I want to take Fiona's thought. So I have no choice. If I don't do it, I'll be punished. That's creating stomach cramps, overwhelm, and this feeling of being out of control. Now, no one is telling you that, right? So a thought, the difference between a thought and a fact is that if you asked anyone around you, is it true? They will most of the time say no. It's not a fact that you can prove, right? It's not true that you're really going to be punished. It's just a feeling. So we need to really dig into that and look at it. So I'm curious if now, at this moment in time, would anyone like to be coached on the connection between the situation you're in that feels like it's the reason you're feeling burned out, the connection between that and your thought and your emotion? Would anyone like to raise their hand and get a little bit of coaching on that? Maybe we're not ready yet. That's okay. Okay, Hama. All right, so bear with me while I do the tech here. I'm going to promote you to panelist. All right. Okay, so unmute, and if you feel comfortable, yeah, there you are.
Yeah, that's fine. Hello.
Perfect. Hi.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Hi, Wise.
Okay, so tell me the thought. I think you put it here, but tell me again.
Yeah, the thought for me is I can't do this. I'm not enough. I feel overwhelmed. It's like I want to just hide under a rock, and then it's also like, why did I get myself in this situation? I knew I couldn't do it. Why am I here? So it's just this constant beating myself up.
Okay. So there were a lot of thoughts in there, right? So there's the I can't do it. What am I doing? Why do I think I could do it? What am I doing here? I didn't write them all down, but let's just choose one. What's the one that's really been the one that you're holding on to, like the one you dig
Is
into?
the I'm not enough. It's always comes to the one.
Okay, good one. Because a
Or
lot of
I'm
people,
not good enough.
I'm not good enough. Okay. This is a big one. This is a common one for people. So I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
So what's the emotion that comes up when you feel like I'm not good enough?
I feel overwhelmed very
Okay.
much. I get up in the morning with big tight. My chest is very tight, and this anxiety, and I'm like, oh crap, here comes another day.
Okay.
Um, and then it's manifested in real health issues for me.
Yeah.
Like my blood pressure is up, actually, and yeah, and it's stress related. So
Yes. Yeah, and that's the response, right? That feeling of overwhelmed, there's a stress response that comes from that.
yeah,
So tell me the exact situation that you're in that's now turning into this stress response. What are the facts of the situation that you're in?
I I've been brought into a startup to as a managing director, business director, and we're trying to generate business. And part of the issue is that it's what usually happens with founders. I work with a lot of startups, and I don't seem to learn my lesson. Is um, the founders bring you in because they want to release control, but then they don't, and then
Mm,
it's like you are navigating these waters where you're just trying to do your job, but then they seem to have a different vision, and then it's like I feel like I'm not performing to their standards. So then it's like I get into this wheel of like I'm not doing well enough, then I make mistakes, and because I make mistakes, then I'm not doing well enough, and then it's like I'm like a hamster in this wheel,
yeah.
right? So is this, then I feel become very insecure about something that I when at the beginning I knew I could do it, and then I become this like what's the expression, scary Nelly or whatever. It's like I'm not gonna do this because, and I have to ask questions all the time. It's okay if I do this. It's like that's not me. But
Yes.
and then the
Okay.
story I tell myself is like they probably think I'm an idiot, and I'm gonna get fired in a minute now.
Yep. So I'm agreeing only because I know this is a story and I know it's not true, right? I think anyone in this call right now, even if they don't know you, they know that what you're telling yourself is a story
Mm-hmm.
and it's not true. So let's go back to the situation you're in because I just want to make this really clear how it's not the situation that's causing the way you're feeling. So you're working for a startup
Mm-hmm.
and we'll just leave it at that, right? Without the rest
Yeah.
of the story, but you work for a startup. The fact that you work for a startup used to be something different for you, right? Like the emotion you had when you first started working for the startup was probably more like enthusiastic
Mm-hmm.
and inspired, right? And different people will have that same situation. Different people could work in the same environment that you're in with the same people, but have a different thought and a different emotion about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
that's the biggest thing to just create that separation of like, it's not the situation that's actually creating it. It's really hard to hear that or believe it when we're in burnout because it just feels like it's everything out there that's at fault for how we're feeling. So just to kind of own that for a second and say that that startup and the people you work with or whatever the environment is not creating the overwhelm. It's this thought, I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So you keep trying to prove that you are, right? So the actions you take from the thought or from the emotion of overwhelm is like, keep doing,
Mm-hmm.
do, right? So our emotions spur our action or inaction. So you're just like, let me just keep doing until your blood pressure is skyrocketing, right?
Yeah, and I'm never disconnected. So then it's ever present. So then there is no disconnect between my private life and my work life, because
Yeah.
my brain is always like connected to, I should be doing this, I shouldn't be sitting down and relaxing and watching TV, I should be doing this other thing. So
Yeah. So why? Why aren't you good enough? Why do you think you're not good enough?
um, I don't know. I'm hoping you can tell me. um,
What does good enough mean?
but that's where my brain goes. Then when I have some clarity, then I go, what is good enough? But is, I think, it's a story that I tell myself, but I don't know how to, like, my mind is divided. Like, on one hand, I know it's a story that I tell myself, but on the other hand, I don't know how to get out of that story. Um, it's like, well, maybe I should have like a supervision and have everything clear in my mind about how this is going to work. Um, but I don't. So
Yeah.
I hit myself up a lot with that one. It's like, maybe that's, yeah, I don't know, like, that's what good enough means, like have everything clear in my mind and know which path we're going to take.
Yeah.
Which, but even if I do, the founder always has a different idea. So
Yeah. So right now you're trying to prove that you're good enough. And then the result that you get from trying to prove it all the time is that you're not good enough
yeah,
because you're trying to do all this stuff that isn't actually where your value sits, right? You're trying
correct.
to create all this productive movement to feel worthy and to prove your value and to do all this extra stuff to prove you're good enough. But all you're actually doing is giving yourself evidence that you're not good enough, that you're not good at what you do because you're not doing the thing you're good at. You're doing all the things you need to do to prove yourself to someone else.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
So, what we need to do is get out of, and this is a big one for burnout. It's like we just need to get out of this like overproduce, overdo to prove ourselves to our bosses and our coworkers and the people in our lives to show them that we're good enough, we're worthy, we have value. When we stop trying to prove our value, we start up leveling into our value, and then we're not busy proving anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because our value is not in the place of proving. And if you think about anyone that you admire, that you see as a leader, think about what they do on a daily basis and the kind of value they provide to their work environment or to the people around them. And is it busy energy? Is it busy proving energy? No. It's like they know what their value is. They rise to the occasion.
Hmm.
They don't need anyone to tell them that they have that value,
Yeah.
right? And that's where we start to make the choice of like, do we need to make a change in our situation or do we need to make a change in our mindset? Maybe both,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope that's helpful.
Very
I'm
much.
gonna,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm gonna send you back. Awesome. Thank you for volunteering. It's very vulnerable. Okay, now I need to figure out how, oh, there you are. Okay,
Kick
how
me
do I
out.
do this? Change back. Okay, there we go. Okay, thank you, Hema. Amazing. Okay. Um, anyone else? Feel free to raise your hand and then I can bring you on later also. So thanks again, Hema. I think it's important to recognize that. And we're going to actually talk about that a little bit more. This idea of proving value. This is a really big, big, big piece of this whole thing. One of the things Hema mentioned too was when I started working at this company, I didn't feel like this. So this is another place where I want you to really like settle in and I want you to think about if you're feeling burned out because of a job right now, because of the work environment you're in, I want you to think about the day that you got that job. When you got the acceptance letter, when you got the call or the email. Write this in the Q&A also. What did you feel in your body? And what emotion did you have? Was it butterflies, an excitement? Were you feeling inspired? What was that feeling when you first took on this job? Or it doesn't have to be job related. If you're feeling burned out because of your family life or personal things, think about pre-burnout. What was happening? So curious what the difference might be. Okay, motivated and excited. Benedetta, I'll get to your question. That's a great one. I'll get to that in a minute. And then Elodie, I'll bring you on also if you're interested in getting coached. That's great. Okay, so Alyssa or Elisa. So motivated and excited. Okay. And now you're feeling like, are you good enough if you don't get everything done that you need to get done? Right? So from motivated to am I good enough? Interesting. So who else? What did you feel before you got into the situation that you feel like is kind of affecting your burnout or contributing to your burnout? So excited and overwhelmed. Interesting. So taking it on, you already felt overwhelmed when you took the job, but excited. I there's a lot of excitement. I think that's a common piece. So what changed? This is the big question, right? Like what changed from excitement to burnout, excitement to resentment, excitement to irritability? What's the gap in between those two things? Anyone? What do you think? Well, it's something that Hema and I were just talking about. We tend to think it's outside, right? It's everyone else. It's our boss. So Benedetta, you talked about, what if I don't have a role model at work? Like, you know, what if your boss is really coming down on you and putting a lot of pressure on you? Well, that's going to create burnout, right? Well, maybe. Maybe not. I mean, some people might be in your exact same role with the same boss and don't take it the same way, right? It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's just you have a thought in between what's happening with your boss and how you're feeling about it. And likely it's I'm not good enough because we always beat ourselves up first before we think that maybe there could be something else going on with them, or maybe we don't need to control the way that they act. Maybe they can just do whatever they want. It doesn't affect us. Lots of different ways to look at it. But sometimes the difference between where you were when you started that job and where you are now is this idea that you don't have control anymore of your situation. And this idea of looking at your thoughts gives you back control because you don't have to change your job or change your boss or change your coworkers. You can change the way you're thinking looking at things and thinking about things. So I'll use a non-work related example. So I moved to the Netherlands about 3.5 years ago. And when I first moved here, I was really homesick and I hated it. I really hated it. I hated everything about the Netherlands. I just looked for every possible thing that I could hate and so that I could hate it more. And I sat with that and I just felt miserable. I just didn't want to be here. I wanted to figure out every possible way to get back to America, to the place that I called home, to my culture, to my language. I just wanted to go back. And then one day I was walking through the park and I was walking next to a canal, which is very typical. And there were tulips blooming. The sun was out, the sun was shining on the water. And I just stood there for a minute and I said to myself, not out loud, I said, I am allowed to love this. I can give myself permission to love being here and to choose to love it. And I can still love America. I can still love home, but I can love this right now. And just that feeling changed everything. And you can't just change a feeling overnight. You can't just change a thought overnight. It's a habit. We've been in the habit of thinking about things a certain way. But you can start to bridge yourself into that new thought, right? So you can start to kind of build the ladder like, okay, I don't have to love it, but I'm okay with it. Like the Netherlands is not so bad. Okay, I live here now and I'm going to live here for a while. So let me just, find one thing that I could like about it. There's a bridge between hate and love that you can kind of start to see the steps to. And this is important with things like self-image also. If you have, gained weight or lost weight, or you're just not happy with your body image at a certain time, it's also the same. It's like you can either hate it, you can hate your body every time you look in the mirror. It's going to cause you a lot of pain, but you can choose that. You can choose to hate it, or you can choose to love it. Now, you're not going to go from hate to love immediately because you've been used to looking at your body and hating it for a long time. So you have to bridge yourself to that place where maybe it's just like, hey, I'm a human with a body. Maybe I don't love that body, but I'm a human with a body, and that's just a fact. And let's just end the story there. I don't have to go into love or hate. I'm just a human with a body, and that's it in the mirror. So you can just bridge yourself to that new thought. So so that's that part of it. The thought connected to the situation connected to the emotion. Okay. So we have that going. Okay. And when I talk about like the 5 steps to get out of it, one of them is just looking at your thoughts and starting to see how you can make a shift in your thoughts. That's a big one. Okay. Now, the other piece to this is that we have bad thoughts and we have good thoughts that we want, right? So we know that looking at our body and hating it creates pain. And we'd like to change that pain and get out of it. So we'd like to move to the love, right? The love thought that creates the love feeling, that creates the love result. Okay. That's the ideal. But what we do too often is we jump really quickly and we just tell ourselves, okay, all I need to do is think a new thought and I'll have a new emotion and we're done. And that puts us in a position where we're trying to push those bad. I like to use quotes because there's no like bad and good emotion, but we like to push those emotions that cause pain. We like to push them away. And the more we push them away, the harder it gets to actually move back to the good emotions because we've spent so much time trying to like buffer around them. So if our burnout is creating sadness, what we do very often is we say, well, we don't want to feel sad. We want to feel happy. So let's go eat some ice cream, drink a glass of wine, crawl into bed, watch a movie, and that will make us feel good. And then we wake up in the morning and we're like, don't really feel that good. Don't really feel like anything's really changed. Kind of feel the same because we're not actually like looking at the sadness and trying to understand what it's there to tell us. We're just pushing it away. Life is always a balance of, again, in air quotes, good emotions and bad emotions. Okay, we have emotions that make us feel energized and motivated and excited. And we have emotions that make us feel differently, right? Like we have sadness and grief, and we have emotions that create more pain. And rather than pushing them away immediately, it's important to just understand why they're there. There's a reason. There always is. Fear is there to protect us. And it doesn't always protect us because it's sort of sometimes it's an old survival instinct that doesn't apply in the modern world, but it's still there and it protected us for some period of time. And maybe we're ready to let go of it now, but we won't let go of it fully. You won't get out of burnout forever, which is my promise. You won't get out of it forever. If you don't look at it and sit with it and understand it and learn from it. If you just are quick to just push it away, it's going to keep bouncing back. So let's take a second. Let's go back to that first question. Let's go back to feeling burnout in our body. I'm going to go up to the top of the QA. When we feel useless and mentally exhausted, when you can't even muster up the energy to talk to anyone, when you feel that, what do you think it's trying to tell you? I really want you to like get into this for a second, like get weird for a second, like tune in and listen. Is there a word that comes up or an image that comes up for you when you ask this sensation, this burnout, this uselessness, this exhaustion, this irritability? When you sit in that space, What is it really telling you? And if you have an answer, would you put it in the Q&A? Okay, I love this. Yes. Benedetta, I need to change, but this feeling is so scary. This is a big one. I'm going to talk about this too. Who else? Okay, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to let you tune in. Okay, what is it there to tell you? What can you learn from this? Now, what Benedetta said, I think is really key. Sometimes the message of the burnout is something you don't want to hear. It's something you're not ready for. Maybe you know that you need to make a change, but it feels way too overwhelming right now to even start down that path. Maybe you need to make a change, but you don't know what it is, and having to go down the path of like, oh God, do I really have to think about what I'm going to do next? Like, that's too much. What is it there to tell you? Maybe it's just there to tell you that you deserve time to yourself, that you won't be punished if you don't get it all done. Maybe it's there to tell you that you run at a different pace than other people, and that's okay. Maybe it's there to tell you that everything that you do at work has value and that you don't have to prove yourself. So maybe you don't feel comfortable sharing it in the Q&A, and that's totally fine, but write it down somewhere. Oh, look at this. Change, change, change. Change, change, change. It's not the right thing. You have an inner knowing. This is my pixie dust now. You have an inner knowing. You have an inner voice that leads you and guides you, and that you know that you can trust it, but sometimes you turn it off because you're trying to meet someone else's expectations. It's totally normal. We want to do what's best for everyone, right? You need to put yourself first. Easier said than done. You need to listen to that voice. Okay? Listen to it. It's not going to steer you wrong. Okay? And I know that family burnout on top of work burnout is why a lot of you are here, and it's really important. You need to remember that you can't do anything unless you are your best, right? So I'm going to jump down to the tips because I know we're kind of coming close to time, and I want to give you these 5 steps to go from burnout to balance, because everything you guys are putting in the Q&A, and thank you again for sharing, because this is so important. Knowing that you're not alone, and that look at all these people that are having a similar experience. I want to give you these 5 steps, and then I want to encourage you all to, um, this sounds like so weird and salesy, but it's only because I want to create community. But I have a Facebook group, and I'm going to put the link in the email that I send you after this, because I also want you to feel comfortable sharing your story, because that helps us all feel less alone and normalizes where we are right now and helps us get out of it. Okay. So it is, and Fiona, I can tell you, it's time to focus on yourself and make a change. And we're going to talk about that right now. Okay, 5 steps. We spent a lot of time with number 1. Change your thoughts. Okay, it's not going to be easy. They've been in there for a long time. You've told yourself this story for a long time. I'm not good enough. I need to keep working to prove myself. I need to over deliver. I need to do this. I need to run at this pace. I need to work 8 hours a day. Who made that rule up? Change your thoughts. Okay. Work on it. It's not going to happen overnight. I recommend journaling and then just circling the thoughts that are facts. 99% of the time, you won't be able to circle any facts because you'll see the story. Just be aware of it. Be curious. Don't try to move away from it. Just see it. Okay, I'm going to talk more about it, but change your thoughts. Set boundaries. Okay. You've all heard this before. Um, I'm trying to think if I should just, okay, I'm going to go through the 5 and then I'll explain them. Okay. Change your thoughts, set boundaries, prioritize, ask for help, change your situation. Okay. You all put change, 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 change. Your inner knowing is probably telling you to change and you're feeling overwhelmed by that voice. Okay. Go 1 through 4. And by the time you get to 5, you'll have a plan. If you do the work 1 through 4, you're either going to feel like you don't need to make a change or you're going to know exactly how to make that change. It gives you time. So if I use my Netherlands example, okay, and I go 1 through 4, I didn't move to the Netherlands, then feel homesick, then, keep going with that, keep hating it, keep doing all those things, and then change my situation. Changing my situation wasn't number 1. I try to do all the other things first. Don't change your situation until you've gone 1 through 4. It's not going to be the cure. You're just going to take this pattern with you as you move forward. Okay, so if you think that changing the situation every single time is going to be the thing that gets you out of it, it's not. Do the work. And by the time you get to change your situation, you are going to be ready and you're not going to feel overwhelmed anymore. You're going to have the energy and the stamina to make the change that's going to be right for you. It's not going to be the change that just like, I need to peace out, get out of here. I need to change this immediately. It's going to be the change that sticks. So 1 through 4. Okay. We talked a lot about changing your thoughts. I don't want to go back into that. Let's talk about boundaries. Okay. Let me just pull this up in my notes because it's important. Okay. Boundary violations cause resentment. Boundary violations happen all the time because we forget to tell people that we have boundaries. And then we get mad at them for violating them. We also forget to tell ourselves what those boundaries are. So we don't set them, we don't know what they are. We just feel like they've been violated. So here's what you need to do. Define your boundaries. Communicate your boundaries. That's the hardest part. Know what the consequence is if that boundary is violated. You don't have to communicate that, but you have to know. And then you need to stick to the boundary. Example, your boss texts you all the time, texts you after 5, texts you on the weekends. That's a really hard word to say multiple times. You don't have a boundary. So you just let it happen because you feel like you need to be available, that it's a way to prove your worth. You're really happy your boss reaches out to you. Clearly, they need you, and that feels good, but you don't like it. And so you resent having to answer those texts. That is not the way you want to show up at work. You don't want to be full of resentment. So set the boundary for yourself. Okay, I've decided I'm okay with texts, but they have to be before 5 and not on the weekends. Or I don't like texts at all. I'm going to tell my boss to only write me notes on Slack or on email. No more texts. I literally just set that boundary with one of my clients, and we sent the note to the boss together. So set the boundary. No texts at all. Communicate the boundary. You might be scared to communicate that boundary, but 100%, as soon as you do, you're not going to get pushed back. And if you do, that's just, then you can move to number 5 a little more quickly. Set your boundary, communicate it to your family. Don't think that they can read your mind, that they know you need to go into your room and have space to yourself. Communicate it before you need to get the space. Tell them every day at 5 o'clock, I'm just going to go in my room, close the door. Cool? Set it from a place of love. Don't set it from a place of like, I'm defending myself. I need to get out of this. Don't set it from panic mode. Set it from intentional. I know what my boundaries are. I'm going to set them with kindness. Okay. Boundaries. Prioritize. Okay. Huge one. Okay. Prioritization is like a closet that needs to be cleaned out. So your calendar is a dirty, messy closet. Even if you're like the perfect project manager, it's still dirty and messy and falling apart because you're feeling overwhelmed and burned out. So trust me, it's a mess. So listen, when you get sick, you clear your calendar. No questions asked. You don't write to people and tell them you're canceling meetings. They're just done. Delete. You delete all the things from your calendar. Let's let's clear your calendar before you get sick, okay? Because that's the road we're all going down here, and you know it. So you don't have to delete everything, but I want you to look at your calendar, literally take everything off your calendar. It all feels so important. It's not. It's not all, it all doesn't have the same level of priority. Okay. This is what we talked about with Hema too. This is your value set. So you set the priority based on where you're going to have the most impact in the business or impact for your family, where you're going to have the most impact, where you get to bring your best value set, or where it's going to move you forward. Maybe it's not going to move the business forward, but it's going to help you on your career path. Okay, that is the priority. But before you set those priorities, you first on your calendar clear it all out. And the first thing you're allowed to put back in your closet when you've taken everything out is time for you. And I don't mean that in I don't know, I can just picture the Instagram post. It means like whatever that one moment is of the day that you absolutely need, it's immovable. So it might be the 12 to 1 o'clock lunch hour. I mean, it might be that simple that I don't book any appointments or any meetings from 12 to 1. It's blocked in my calendar. I literally went into Adidas and talked to a team that was feeling super burnt out. And I said, look, you guys don't eat lunch. You never go outside. You sit in front of your computer and you wonder why you're burned out. You never even like take a breath. I made the general manager of the department put 12 to 1 blocked out in everyone's calendars. It was so easy. It had to come from him to make everyone believe that it was worth blocking out the time, but it's like so easy. It's just 1 hour. So it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to meditate. You don't have to go get a pedicure. Just block off that time for you. That is the number one priority. Clear the whole calendar and put that on first, immovable. So for me, that's my workout time. And and I'm not trying to say that to like everybody needs workout time, but for I just need it for many reasons. So I put that time on first. I don't take any calls or appointments before 10 because I don't want to wake up at 6 to work out. I just want to do it at a normal time. So I have the luxury of setting my start time at 10. And anyone who's worked with me knows I don't take appointments before 10. But my priority is that. Now, if I don't feel like working out one day, I don't just suck that time up with checking email and doing a bunch of other stuff. That time is open. That time is for me. That time is whatever feels nurturing at that moment. I can just stare at the wall. What I can't do are a bunch of bullshit tasks that aren't going to get further me along. Okay. So then the next thing you look at are those priorities that impact you or impact the business. Those go on your calendar next. The rest of it is giveaway or throwaway. And for real, you have some things on your calendar right now that you can straight up delete. And I want you to do it as soon as you get off this call. There are some things on there that are just busy work and you know it. And then there are things that you can give away. And this is a place where it's like the value proving my worth. Can I really give these things away? What you do, it's like setting boundaries. You talk to your boss and you say, look, these 5 meetings that I have on my calendar don't feel like they're helping me add value to the business. If you say that to your boss is going to try to clear the path for you to add more value to the business. Trust me on that. So anything that feels like it's not helping you, it's not feeling inspiring, it's not helping you make impact, give it away, delegate it or delete it. And it's just like your closet. You take everything out before you start cleaning it. You look at each thing one by one, and some of those things might have some sentimental value. You might have been holding on to them for a while, but you need to really look at it. Like, is that broom that you've just been like moving from house to house that's like really dirty and broken? Like, you really need that? It's time to get a new one. So just take it all out and look at each thing intentionally. Put the things back on your calendar with intention. Okay. I hope that really makes sense because that's a huge one. Ask for help. This might need to be number one, but I also feel like we're not ready to ask for help until we've gone through some of these other steps. So you need to identify with the fact that you're here, which means you know that you're burned out. You might be trying to push it away and denying it, but you know that you are. And so you need to ask for help. You need to tell the people in your world that you're feeling burned out and you need their support. It's very similar to setting boundaries. You're establishing it, you're making it known, and you're voicing it. And trust me, people want to help you. They really do. I know that you're stuck in this place of thinking like, nobody wants to help me. There's no possible way. Nobody wants to give me time. I'm going to get punished. I know you believe that. But we are all a human community that really does want to help each other. That is, I mean, of course, not everyone. All right, I get it. But generally, if you ask someone for support, they're going to give it to you. This is a hard one. This is why I mentioned that Facebook group. You have now a group of people, mostly women, who want to support you. We're all in this together. It's a safe space. I have 2 minutes. Maybe you can stay for 5 extra minutes. But you have this group. You also have me. You have a safe space where you can say this, where you can talk about what you need and the support you need. And the reason you need to talk about it out loud is because it turns it into a problem with a solution instead of a roadblock that feels helpless that you can't get through. Now it's like, okay, I've voiced it. Now it's a thing. Like now it's a puzzle to be taken apart and looked at and reworked. Okay? Ask for help. Now we get to number 5, changing your situation. So once you've gone through all those steps, you will have relieved a lot of burden. You'll have a lot more space. You'll have put yourself first. You'll have set boundaries. And once you experiment with all of those changes, then you listen to that inner voice and it might still have a message for you. And that message might be, I feel totally out of alignment. This is 100% not the right job for me. And at that moment, you need to get out fast. And I don't say that lightly because I have been in this place multiple times in my life and my career where you're sort of standing on this precipice and you see everyone down below you swimming in the water, having fun and enjoying themselves. And you really want to jump in, but you just are paralyzed with fear. I've been there many times. And trust me, if you've ever jumped off a cliff in real life, like a one that's safe, you stand there just really afraid. There's a whole amazing documentary about these people standing on like a 10-foot platform, jumping into a pool, and just their reaction of standing there and who jumps and who doesn't and how long does it take them. It's an exercise in courage to stand on the edge and know what it feels like to jump. And when you get into the water, all you want to do is do it again because it's so fun. Once you know you can do it and you feel that courage, it is a relief to get into the water because it's hot up there on that cliff. Like it's all dusty and it feels so good. And I can only say that because I am in the water and I'm calling to you and I'm like, just jump. It feels so good. It really does. And it's just such a waste of time to feel, I don't want to say waste of time. Your journey is your journey and it's important and you're where you are right now because it's exactly where you need to be. But if that inner voice is telling you to make a change, don't ignore it. Your heart is telling you something that if you follow it, you will get on the other side. And it can be risk-free. A lot of that fear comes from thinking you might have a loss of income or thinking that you're going to disappoint people. But there is actually a way to do it where you make a plan. So it's not spontaneous. It's not because you feel so frustrated you just need to quit immediately. You go through step 1 through 4. You find the spaciousness from going through those steps, and then you're going to have the energy to make a plan. And I can help you with that too. The plan is really important because it takes away a lot of the fear and overwhelm by just knowing, okay, I just need to go from step 1 to 5. And once I get to step 5, I'm going to know exactly what to do. You don't have to know where you're going to be by the time you get to step 5. You just have to follow it linearly. So I've started 3 businesses. The first business, I was young, I was in my 20s, I was frustrated with my job and I quit and I didn't have a plan and it didn't go great. I mean, I think it went pretty well considering where I was at in my life, but it wasn't like sustainable. Well, in job number 2, starting my own business, I never lost income. And same with this career transition. I never lost a paycheck. And I mean that. Like I couldn't afford to lose a paycheck. So I made a plan from job that didn't feel aligned to running my own business that felt amazing. I just created a plan and I followed the plan and I was never at a loss for income. I never had to like renounce status or success or feel like I was starting over because I made a plan and it was a natural progression. So it's possible to do that without risk, even though I know standing on the edge, you're like, there's no way, it's too scary, overwhelming, too many things. Start from 1, go through the steps, and you will have a plan when you're ready to change your situation. Okay, so I'm just going to recap and then we'll jump off. So change your thoughts, set boundaries, prioritize, ask for help, change your situation. These are the steps that will get you out of burnout forever. You're not going to go, it's not going to happen immediately. It's going to take some practice, but you have the tool. This tool will end burnout forever. I promise you. It will take some practice and some adaptation, but I'm here. I'm going to send you a link so you can write me an email or drop me a note or whatever you need. I just literally want to take the pain away. I know how it feels to be where you are, and I know how it feels to be the future version of yourself that's calling from you, calling to you from the water. I'm there and it feels amazing. And I really wish I didn't wait so long to jump because it's so much better. I'm working at my own pace. I don't have to run a race. I don't have to prove anything. Take it or leave it. Like some of you will leave this call going, yeah, not for me. She's weird. And some of you will go, oh, you know what? Like, that's great. Amazing. And you know what? I put myself out there. I'm not afraid to fail. I just do it because I want to help. I really, really, really want to help because I know how it feels. So thank you for taking this time out for yourself. Go rest, recuperate. Don't go jumping into the next thing. Take at least a half hour to just sit and stare at the wall. Do it for yourself. And I send you all the most love and just like, I don't know, the whatever this is, the like, you can do it, encouragement and support. So take care, have a great night, and until the next time.